I told my fiancé that I know about his infidelity and canceled the wedding. He still wants a second chance. Original post. I feel like a horrible person. We are supposed to get married on August 20 in a small ceremony. I'm female 33, been with my fiancé male 34 for 6 years. Engaged for 1. The best years of my life. His brilliance in every way. Or so I thought. The accident happened 6 weeks ago. A drunk driver hit my fiancé's car. I spent the worst night of my life in the hospital waiting for answers from the doctors. He went through hours and hours of surgery. His parents and brothers were also there waiting. I've always loved his family and they me. His mom is or was one of my favorite people and we got along very well. She was happy to have me as her first daughter-in-law. She's religious, and when my fiancé was hovering between life and death, she was worried about his sins, so she told me that he cheated on me about 2 months ago with an ex he bumped into. She explained that it was because of the wedding and the stress of planning it. Apparently, I've been both stressed out and stressing him out. He had a weak moment. It was a one-time thing and he regretted it so much. He asked his parents for advice on what to do and they told him not to say anything. As long as he's remorseful and as long as it was me he wanted, he should forget about what he did and move on. His whole family knew. After the hospital, he moved back to his parents' house because we live in a flat without lifts. I visit him every day. I haven't told him that I know and his family's acting like nothing has changed. They're very happy he's doing better, and understandably so, and my presence by his side is very helpful according to him and his family. Now both fiancé and his parents are talking about us being able to get married on the day we set after all. I feel awful because I don't want that. Our relationship was over the moment I found out about the cheating. I stayed because I loved him, still do, and I wanted him to feel better. I couldn't break his heart while he's recovering. I also thought the wedding was postponed and that I or we would have more time for him to recover fully and be strong and independent again so I could leave with clear conscience. I tried to speak to his mom today, but she just started hyperventilating and kept telling me not to do this. She made a mistake by telling me, and that I shouldn't take advantage of what she said in desperation to punish him and kill his spirit. He's still recovering and he needs me. I have been thinking since my talk with his mom about everything and I'm so angry at him. I'm ashamed that even when I was worried about his life, I was very angry and resentful. We were supposed to have our wedding in this beautiful manor house that he found that is all-inclusive, with our most important people. My best friend is a DJ and my parents paid for the whole thing even though they're much poorer. So I don't know where the stresses come from. We fixed everything in a week. I'm so angry and I've kept bottling it up since the accident. I'm afraid I'm going to explode soon. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Well, at least you found out how he handles stress ahead of time. I read this expecting to see you ask him and find out it was a lie. I know, right? Tell your parents what's going on right away so that they can cancel the venues and get refunds on as much money as possible. You should also tell them so that they can support you when the in-laws pressure you to just forget and get married. Precisely. I pray Opie takes this to heart so they can be strong, leave, and find someone that truly loves them down the line. People that love you don't cheat, or otherwise do things to deliberately hurt you. A very popular saying Redditors use applies here. Never set yourself on fire to keep someone warm. Never. In fact, build a man a fire and you'll keep him warm for a night. Set a man on fire and you'll keep him warm for the rest of his life. Opie has every right to feel angry, hurt, and resentful. The fiancé betrayed Opie in the worst way possible. Opie, you've more than fulfilled your duty by standing by him this far. More than he deserves in my opinion. You've been supportive and you've taken care of him. Now it's your turn to take care of yourself. You were entitled to the truth, and by hiding it, your fiancé and his family showed how little respect for you they have. They had every intention of letting you go through with a marriage based on a lie. Break up with him and find someone who truly deserves you and will respect you and be faithful. Your future mother-in-law is solely looking out for her and her son. She's not concerned about you and your feelings. She told you something devastating only because she was worried for her son's soul if he didn't live. Now she's wanting you to keep quiet only because she will look bad for telling you. Your fiancé's looking out for himself too. He knows what he did was wrong. That's why he confessed to his parents and not to you. Please look out for yourself, because these people are not. Facts. As soon as mother-in-law told me he told her and they said keep quiet, I would be out. Yep. In fact, I would have used the time he was in the hospital to either clear everything of his out of the apartment or pack up all my stuff. Let mother-in-law and all his family that knew about his cheating help him with his recuperation. And now for the update. I've written here 3 days ago before I talked to my fiancé. This is after I told him I know about his cheating. I started by telling my parents, who are paying for the wedding, about what happened and that I'm canceling the wedding. Hopefully they can get back some of what they paid via their home insurance. I have told them that I'm going to pay the rest of the damages. My dad refused. I insisted. It's not up to them. Since my fiancé still lives with his parents, I felt that I would be outnumbered if I went alone to end it. Text or a call wasn't an option since it meant a lot more to me than that, and I really wanted to see his face and ask why. I also want him to see my hurt. I don't want it to be comfortable for him. Cheaters must see the hurt they caused and hopefully learn from it. So I took my mom with me, and when I told him that the wedding was off and the reason why, he started crying. He told me all things they say in desperation. He was foolish, he didn't think, he was stressed out, he was scared, it meant nothing. He regretted it. He didn't want to tell me because it meant nothing, and he didn't want to hurt me. I should give him a chance to prove himself and his loyalty. He can ask his parents to pay for the wedding. We can't postpone the wedding indefinitely. I can take the apartment and he will live with his parents, as long as it takes for me to forgive him. I haven't cried so much as I did when I was listening to his BS, and afterwards on my way home. How could he do this to me? He didn't give me a satisfying answer to why he did this to me, to us. I have cried myself to sleep every night since the accident, and yet I cried like I've just found out. I'm going to stay in the apartment that we bought together, and he will stay with his parents. Prices have gone down these last couple of months, and we both agreed that we don't want to sell for less than what we paid. But the moment it goes up again, we're selling. I have started packing his things now, and tomorrow I'm renting a van to move his things to his parents' house. Sorting out his stuff and packing his clothes made it real for me. I didn't expect it to be so emotional. Why do I still love him so much? He has been texting me and he has called me twice. And we talked mostly about mundane stuff, but also about us and our relationship. His mom has called me to say that she felt guilty for first not advising him to come clean, but even for later divulging a secret to me without his permission. She was disappointed that I took advantage of her moment of panic, but that she understands that I'm hurt. She said he will do his best to win me back. I'm a bit irritated about the fact that none of them, including my parents, believe that it's really over, and I don't have the energy to prove my point either. I just need some alone time now and some peace and quiet. As many have said, you should not get back with him, but I will add something about this. He didn't give me a satisfying answer to why he did this to me. Unfortunately, there was never a satisfying answer. No matter what his reasoning is, you will always find yourself thinking, but if he loved me, he would not have done this to me. That's because you are not a cheater. A great piece of advice I once read is that it is not healthy to dwell on the why someone hurt you. If you cannot understand why someone would hurt you in that way, it is because you are not like them. And that should be your closure. This is fantastic advice, and it can turn a few months or years of searching for the answer into moving on and up with my own life. Bravo! If his mom calls again, do not answer. She's not responsible for the situation. Her son is, and she needs to butt out of it. Plus, she continues to make Opie the bad guy and has no good intentions when reaching out to her. Exactly. Stop engaging with his mom. He is the cheater. Opie did nothing wrong. And the fact that the mom is berating her for dumping a cheater just because the information was given in a moment of weakness, as in guilt, she does not need to ignore it. Not to mention the mother was one of the people who encouraged him to lie to Opie. She sucks. Exactly. You took advantage of her moment of panic? Nope. She came clean to you and she thought he was going to pass, and his immortal soul was in jeopardy or whatever, and you made decisions based on the truth. If you need them to believe that there's some hope for the relationship while you get your head together and work on a plan, you can always tell them that you need space, and space means no contact. Your ex's mom is a bit delusional. Who in their right mind says she's disappointed that you took advantage of her panic? You dodged a bullet here, Opie. Because it's disgusting to see your ex's mom gaslight you like that. And as for your ex, he's only upset he found out. Otherwise, he didn't feel guilty about it at all. If he didn't respect you enough to not cheat and blame you for the wedding stress, what's going to happen when, and if, you get married and something stressful comes up? Take your space from everyone and take the time to heal and process everything. Now, for the last story. Mother-in-law 64 female is convinced that I 37 male am going to divorce my wife 35 female and is trying to convince my wife of the same. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and have been trying for our first child for around 6 months now. We were keeping everything under wraps, but my wife recently had to take leave from her job at the advice of a doctor, related to trying to get pregnant and existing medical conditions. We decided it was time to let our parents know, as keeping my wife's leave under wraps was going to be impossible. My mother-in-law responded to the news by saying that she needed time to process the information. I walked into another room, and my mother-in-law called my wife back, made sure I couldn't hear the conversation, and proceeded to tell my wife that she has concerns, and she didn't think that we should have a child together. Mother-in-law's concerns were a complete blindside to both my wife and I. My wife graduated approximately 2 years ago, and my father-in-law told me ahead of her graduation party, without my mother-in-law's knowledge, that father-in-law and mother-in-law were buying us a set of cornhole boards. During the graduation party, I said something about the cornhole boards to my mother, and my mother-in-law realized that I knew about the boards before the party. Instead of asking me how I knew, mother-in-law went to father-in-law and asked if he knew how I found out. Father-in-law lied. He denied telling me, and they came up with a theory that I must have snooped through their email accounts when fixing their computer. This lie has snowballed out of control to the point that my mother-in-law now believes that I'm installing tracking devices on my wife's person and vehicle. I am wiretapping her phone, and I am tracking her at her job daily. She told my wife that I am going to wait until the child is born, divorce my wife, take the child, and use this medically necessary leave to claim my wife is not capable of being a parent. My wife went to talk to her mother in person that night. My mother-in-law would not even allow my father-in-law in the room, and said that our opinions, mother-in-law and father-in-law, match, and he did not need to be there for the conversation. She told my wife that for the last 2 years, I have shown red flags that needed to be addressed before we consider having a child. When pressed about if mother-in-law even believes we should remain married, she refused to answer the question. Mother-in-law went so far as to compare me to her awful ex-husband, my wife's biological father, whom my wife cut off contact with 12 years ago. My wife and I are furious and hurt that they have let things get to this point without talking to us. Is there any way to restore this relationship with my wife's parents? If so, what steps should be taken? My wife and her mother have always been close and never keep secrets from each other, but this was left festering for so long that I feel it has become insurmountable. My father-in-law has always been scared to anger my mother-in-law and would never come clean about telling me about the cornhole boards at this point, as my wife and I believe it would jeopardize their marriage. Now for the advice. The heck is wrong with these people? Your mother-in-law and father-in-law are going way beyond the limits of reasonable behavior considering there is no proof or warranted concern for it. She has issues in taking it out on you and the wife. He created this elaborate lie that is getting more and more infected with each passing day. How could your father-in-law allow that situation is beyond my understanding. But given that he's scared to anger her, shows a disturbing relationship. Your in-laws are entire red flags. I don't see any way to repair the relationship unless therapy is involved. Yeah, the father-in-law is super complicit in this situation. He has probably learned to cope with living with mother-in-law by living conflict avoidant to a fault. She's absolutely nuts. Look, you're going to have to throw your father-in-law under the bus, since he's had no problem throwing you under a train of semis. I would just say, remember the cornholes? Father-in-law told me. And move on. She'll either believe you or not, but don't keep a secret for him anymore. I agree that father-in-law needs to be thrown under the bus, but I think wife should do it. Personally, I think with issues like this, the adult child should take the lead so they know husband and wife are on the same page, and that the in-law adult child is not controlling the adult child. I think this crazy mother-in-law will jump to that conclusion anyway, and it's up to wife to tell her calmly and in a direct manner that she's wrong. Put them both on a timeout afterwards. Mother-in-law sounds very controlling anyway. Your father-in-law threw you under the bus ages ago and won't fess up to his wife, because somewhere along the way, she started keeping his balls in her purse. I'd say it's time to throw him under the bus. It's not right that you're suffering the repercussions of his lie. Your wife needs to deal with her mom, her family, her responsibility. Boundaries need to be set in place. She either stops the ridiculousness or you and your wife, and potential children, will be making yourself scarce. I'd say it's time to throw him under the bus. It's time to go to Detroit to design the bus. Break into the factory at night to build a bus. Take it to the proving grounds to test the bus. Then drive the bus to your father-in-law's house and toss him under it. Update. My fiancé said I'm holding my womb hostage. Original post. We've been together for 9 years, engaged for just under 1. I'm 29, he's 33. The other day, we were having a conversation about the future and then the subject turned to kids. How many, etc. I said I'd ideally want two, and I didn't care what gender. He said he wanted two also, but doesn't want a daughter at all. When I pressed, he said it was because he wouldn't be able to relate to her and he didn't want to have to deal with all that. By all that, he meant periods and her dating/intimate life. I told him we would have no control over the gender for our kids. He said he knew, but if we had a daughter, he wouldn't be able to love her as much as a son. What? I wasn't having that. And I told him if that's the case, I'm not having kids with him. And he flew off the handle. He literally started yelling, saying I was holding my womb hostage. And once we're married, I wouldn't get to say whether or not we have kids. That it's his right to have them if he wants. I'm not sure if that's how he meant it, but I think he was implying he'd forcefully impregnate me. It was so hateful. I left, quickly packing while he yelled at me. He followed me out to my car screaming, "That's right, run away," over and over. I've been staying with a friend for 2 days and I haven't told her why I'm not home with him. I don't even know how to begin unpacking the vitriol he spewed. He had never been so blatantly misogynistic. I don't think I even want to marry him anymore, but then I would have wasted 9 years of my life for nothing. He's been blowing up my phone apologizing, begging to talk to me. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to do anything hasty. Please, someone set my head straight. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. You didn't lose 9 years. You're gaining back the rest of your life, free from a raging misogynist. This sounds stupid, but I feel dread at dating and starting over. I'm too old. I was your same age when I tried online dating again and met my now husband. We are now expecting our first child. You are not too old. Of course you feel that way. You grew up with this guy. You were only 20 when you got together. In the past 9 years, a guy has been causing you to attach your worth to him. But he's not right about that. You don't need him to be happy. Just like you know in your heart you don't need to have only boy children to be happy. It sounds like your heart knows this is the last straw. Take it from someone 15 years older than you. Listen to all these other women. Let them teach you, not some controlling man who just told you he would make you his incubator whether you like it or not. You're not here to breed for him and his family, my friend. You have the right to be free. This isn't medieval times. And take it from this divorcee. There's no feeling like being free from a life you didn't realize how much you disliked. And take it from this person who found her partner after 30, after being horrifically betrayed by another. You have time. You have lots of chances. There are way more tastier fish in the sea. Do what your heart wants. He's going to make you feel like you need to come home. You're not married. Think about what the word home means. Hint, it means love, trust, support, and safety. I want you to understand that was the luckiest day of your life. No idea how you missed this for 9 years. You need to think about this once you're clear and settled. But today, let's focus on the extraordinary gift he gave you when he revealed himself so clearly. You need to tell your friend exactly what happened. Your impulse to keep it to yourself tells me that you were not secure in the realization that you were in a romance with a dangerous chauvinistic monster. You're trying to leave yourself the option to go back. Please stop that. Of course, you cannot marry this man. He is a total creep. He threatened you with forced breeding. And he most certainly should never have children. But the only thing you need to make sure of is that he doesn't have them with you. Resolving now that your relationship is over is not hasty. It has taken you 9 years too long. Do not waste another moment of your life even entertaining the possibility of associating with this man. Also, OP, if you leave now, which you definitely should, you will not have wasted 9 years. You will have saved yourself and your theoretical children the entire rest of your lives from being mistreated by this person. Save yourself. Save yourself from a life with a horrible misogynistic a-hole. And write those 9 years off as you not knowing, because that's what they were. He hid this part of him, and you had no way to know it fully. At least it was only 9 years. Not 20, not 50, hell not even 10. And now for the update. Hi everyone. I just thought I'd do an actual update to what happened. So, I took you guys' advice and told my friend I'm staying with. She told me I could stay with her in her guest room until I found my own place. She called her brothers and they actually ended up going yesterday with me to grab my stuff. He tried to hide a bunch of my things, like my medicine and expensive skincare stuff, but they ended up getting it for me. He also tried to say that my game system was his and he'd report me for stealing it. even though it's mine. He also broke some stuff. I don't want to recap what else happened in detail because it was unnecessarily stressful. It took like 5 hours to get my clothes and personal items. The furniture we got secondhand from like Goodwill and Marketplace, so I'm really not worried about that. Before we left with my stuff, I told him it was over. And he seemed okay with it, but after we left, he blew up my phone telling me no one would want me and calling me used up and all these vile names. I don't care anymore. I screenshotted the messages and blocked him. I called my parents and told them what happened, and they're telling our family the wedding's off so I don't have to do it. We hadn't put any deposits down yet, so no real loss. I guess on the bright side, I'm not so sad about him anymore. I'm flying to visit my family next week. Thanks guys for the help. I am incredibly relieved to hear all of this. Blessings upon your friend for being willing and able to give you a safe place to land and regroup. I hope you absolutely thrive as you move forward. I'm relieved too after seeing the way he behaved. I think eventually he would have killed me. Be really proud of yourself. You did such a brave thing. One day in the future, you look back with such a sense of relief and inner peace that this is over. And you'll have hope and excitement for your future, and it will all be down to current you. I wish you all the best. After things have calmed down a bit, and if it's available to you, talking to a therapist will be really helpful for healing. I wish you the best. Therapy is definitely in the works. Thank you. Just remember, you didn't waste the time with him. You had your good times, and you grew in other ways. And he's 100% wrong when he tries to tell you that no one would want you. Just be grateful that his mask slipped before the wedding. Seriously, do you think anyone would want him if they knew about what he said/did? So basically, he got it backwards. Thank God he showed you this before you were married and pregnant. Also, it's wonderful you have a friend helping you so readily. Please consider cameras when you move and also getting a new phone number. Also get into counseling. It's possible there have been little things you didn't notice but could need to be undone so you don't miss them a second time around. Last story is titled, Update. How do I, 23 female, get over my resentment for my boyfriend, 22 male, and jealousy for my sister's 19 female relationship? Original post. I've been dating my boyfriend Gerald for over a year now, and I'm realizing that we never really did anything during the relationship. Before lockdown, we'd go out to eat and watch anime at his place, but that's it. Now that I look back on it, we never really did anything special and he never did anything nice for me. Like, we went out to the boardwalk for a date I planned, but he wanted to spend it playing arcade games. When I suggested various rides we can go on, he chickened out and said that those kinds of attractions freak him out. Dates with him were just getting takeout and playing video games, or watching him at his friend's game. He has been faltering in other parts of his life lately. Lost job but shows no interest in applying for work. Does nothing but sleep or play video games, and he's gained like 50 pounds. Since we've been apart, I've grown to resent him for never taking the initiative. It feels like I never really had a relationship with him, that he's more of just a friend than a boyfriend. Meanwhile, my sister and my best friend are dating incredible guys. They're handsome, driven, and hardworking. They're proactive. They take them out to do fun stuff like hiking or picnics or even do Zoom chats. Instead of video games and TV, they're playing games and even just chatting. My sister is even planning on moving overseas to be with her dude. I want the kind of relationships they're having, but my boyfriend doesn't seem to get the picture no matter how many times I've tried to talk to him. And here I am, stuck with this guy that I just can't feel anything more than resentment. I want him to push himself and show that he actually gives a damn about things. But instead, he just sits on a couch with his eyes locked on the screen and I can't stand it anymore. How do I get over my resentment for my boyfriend? And if possible, how to rein in my jealousy? Sorry if it's a lot to ask. Now for the top advice before reading the update. And here I am, stuck with this guy. You're not stuck with anything. You're making a choice. How do I get over my resentment for my boyfriend? You dump him. He's exactly who you've known. He hasn't changed, and he won't. So dump him and raise your standards. Require and get better of the people in your life. Your jealousy will cease to exist. I wish that is easy, but everyone tells me that he's the best for me. And face it, I have Asperger's and no one wants to date an Aspie. Why are you stuck with him? You're not married. You have no kids together, or I think you would have mentioned that. Dump him and find a new boyfriend. I feel like he is going to go into a tailspin and spiral into a worse mental state. This happened before after a good friend of ours died. And if we're going to be honest, I feel like I'm never going to find someone better. Everyone always tells me that. On the other hand, it could be a wake-up call for him to get motivated and get off the couch and off the video game console. You are finding reasons to not break up with him, which is self-sabotaging. If you want to find someone better, make a plan. Start running or biking or something. Find a group where you can meet new people. Don't believe people who say you'll never find anyone better. But you also need to activate your own self to do that. If you allow yourself to believe that, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sweetheart, you'll never find anything better if you don't give anyone else the opportunity. You're young. This isn't the end of the road. Can you really imagine living the rest of your life being this unhappy? He has no motivation in life and you expect this man to marry you, have and raise children with you, be able to support your family. I dated a guy like this in high school, and when I was focusing on graduating, he was avoiding finishing school and growing into a functioning adult like the plague. I fully believe he expected me to carry the relationship, make the money, and raise a family all on my own after we graduated. I made a better decision for myself to leave, even as he told me he would kill himself if I left. And while I couldn't get him to have any motivation in our relationship, he actually started doing much better for himself after I left. It's absolutely okay to be selfish, especially if it makes you happier to do so. If you're genuinely concerned about his well-being after you split, tell some friends, tell a family member of his, tell someone that can keep an eye on him and get him help if he should need it. And don't ever believe anyone when they tell you you can't do better, because you absolutely can. And now for the update. I made a post on r/relationship advice about 2 years ago. I don't think I got any actual helpful advice aside from dump him, but a lot has changed that I thought I would update. For starters, I dumped Gerald. He was upset and tried to convince me to give him a second chance, but I was done. I was sick of wasting all my time watching anime and gaming with him. I don't even like anime. And I was getting really burned out on nerd stuff to begin with. It took my older, more intimidating sister to tell him to never call me again. Last I heard, he was still unemployed and living with his parents. No one else in his life. Pretty sad, to be honest. As for me, well, things are starting to look up. Part of my frustration 2 years ago was dating as someone with Asperger's. People think that, when you're an SB, you can't function well in society. They treat you like you were meant to be handled with kid gloves or like a young child. And I was frustrated that with my diagnosis, I was doomed to date losers like Gerald. To be honest, I didn't really find the advice I got helpful. I instead asked my sisters what to do. I always trusted their advice and I still do. I don't talk to my old friends from 2 years ago anymore. I realized they were just not worth keeping around. I was also fed up with my job in IT. I hated computers and the whole geek culture surrounding it, but felt pushed into it because of my Asperger's and how they are great at technology to begin with. It made good money, but what's the point of having that paycheck when you can't enjoy it? I had no real friends, a boyfriend I resented, a job that I was crying every time I thought about it. I was miserable. Thanks to my sister's help and advice, I decided to turn things around. I went back to school and I'm currently studying forensic science. It's something I was always passionate about but discouraged from pursuing for that more lucrative tech degree. I had an internship with my city's police department earlier this year and never have I found work that I found to be stimulating and fulfilling for me. I love hanging out with my friends I made. We share a dark humor that can brighten the grimmest of cases. I can actually talk to them about the things that interest me, like historical cold cases and anatomy and bizarre illnesses. And I am in a happy relationship. It's with someone I met in one of my classes and we complement each other so well. Never have I felt so content to be with someone. We have a date later tonight and are making plans to move in together. All in all, I will say this is a chapter of my life I consider closed. Me from 2 years ago will be happy to know that I am thriving now. It's weird she thinks she didn't get good advice when they said dump him. It was the right option, and what she ended up doing. It was literally the only solution to how do I get a relationship I want with someone who doesn't want the same kind of relationship. Maybe listening to her sisters say what everyone else said was crucial, especially since the sisters could elaborate and be more specific. I'm happy she had real-life support and smart sisters. Yep, and side note, Gerald definitely had some untreated mental health issues. Hopefully gets help. Doesn't sound like it though. I might be seeing patterns that aren't there, but there seem to be just as many men who think the right woman will fix or put up with him, instead of a therapist where they have to put in work, as there are women who think they can fix a man. Well, she seems very judgmental and unpleasant to be around. Glad things worked out for her. For real. It sounds like they just had different personalities, but she basically just chat on him. The only loser quality was he didn't try to find a job. But I'm pretty sure the original post was written around the height of the pandemic, so that could easily explain it. Am I the a-hole for not having my father walk me down the aisle? Plus update. Original post. For context, I am 26 female and my father has never been in the picture. He left the same day I was born, leaving my mother to take care of me. I'm an only child and don't have any family beyond my mother, as they disowned her when she fell pregnant with me when she was 17. She has been the best mom and rocked throughout my whole life, and I'm very thankful to her for that. Now back to the point. Me and my fiancé have been doing wedding planning for a couple of weeks now, deciding on color themes and venues. A week ago, the topic of how the ceremony will be taking place came up, and I told him that my mother will be walking me down the aisle as I have no father figure in my life. Seeing my fiancé is a very traditional man, he sees the idea of my mother walking me down the aisle as not what should happen. He was upset at me saying this, and told me I should reconnect with my father so he can give me away, an expression I hate. I told him there is no way I'm reconnecting with someone who never tried to be in my life and ran away from his responsibilities, leaving my mom to raise me. When I said this, it turned into a massive argument and resulted in him storming out and staying at his sister's house. That same day, I received countless calls and messages telling me I'm a horrible person and need to suck it up for one day to be the woman I am and should be. I haven't responded to any of these, and I'm just taking some time to myself before I try talking to him. Yesterday, I found out my fiancé reached out to my father and asked him to meet him in a few days. I am beyond mad and rethinking this whole marriage thing. I have no clue how he found my father, but right now I am with my mom and she's telling me I wasn't right, and he's being a baby reacting like he did. But in my mind, I'm still having thoughts if I'm the a-hole for not wanting to be traditional. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Ooh, ick. Yuck. You would be the a-hole if you marry this guy in his terrible family. Otherwise, not the a-hole. Run. Don't walk. Run. Seriously, this is horrible. Hope you love yourself enough to get away from someone so toxic and uncaring about you. Yep, if he's upset about OP daring to go against a traditional view here, just wait until they're married and OP cannot have autonomy or power and ends up the maid that must serve as her husband. Yes, and serve as his family and walk 3 steps behind him. What a toxic culture and family from which he was raised. He's the kind of guy who will likely lay hands on her if he hasn't already. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé sounds like a groomzilla and his family is horrible. You sure you want to marry into this circus? Your mom walking you down the aisle sounds absolutely gorgeous. Neither your fiancé nor his family seems to respect or take you seriously. That would be a deal breaker for me, to be honest. A groomzilla, yes. And also a huge POS for going behind his fiancé's back to contact the father when she has made it clear she wants nothing to do with him. I can't imagine. OP should run and never look back. Not the a-hole. This is the dude you plan to spend your life with. Him and his surrounding cast. Say it out loud to yourself. This utter prick is who you are signing up to spend the rest of your life with, and therefore his surrounding cast as well. Say it louder. Are you really going to spend your life with this man? Were you my daughter? You'd be getting some message from me too. Pleading you use your head, not your heart. I thought this as well. If someone treated my daughter this way, I would be helping her pack and move away from him. Would cancel the wedding and instead invite her best friends to go on holiday to celebrate her freedom. Edit. I was just reading through some of the comments and you were all so kind. I will update you soon, lovelies. I'm still trying to process all of this. Now for the update. Hello everyone. I posted 8 hours ago, and since then, I've had time to think about what I really want. I've come to the decision with help from all of you and a person who messaged me, you know who you are, that I will not be going forward with this marriage and will be cutting contact from my ex-fiancé and his family. I've no clue what he will do when he meets up with my father, but I will be having no part of it. I will be keeping this post up so anyone in a similar situation can read the comments, but I will no longer be posting on here and will be keeping my breakup private. I am so grateful for all of you and the support, apart from a select few. I hope all of you have a lovely day. Edit. I will be getting a lawyer just in case, and will be taking precautions to keep safe. I am so relieved to read this update. Please research your options regarding restraining orders, and at the very least, line up a lawyer to prepare a cease and desist letter. Hopefully I'm being unduly cynical, but your soon-to-be ex shows signs of being pretty abusive. Also, do a pregnancy test and do not agree to anything sexual. It definitely fits the criteria for someone who could try to baby trap you. Be careful, OP. If your ex is the kind of man we all think he is, he may react violently to you breaking up with him. Your safety is the most important thing. Don't hesitate to protect yourself. Absolutely this. Be careful and protect yourself. Maybe best if OP is conveniently and constantly near friends or family for a little while, just while that lawyer from the edit is doing whatever it is they're doing. Yesterday I found out my fiancé reached out to my father and asked him to meet him in a few days. Absolutely fascinated by the mental image of them meeting for brunch to discuss a now non-existent wedding. I'm hoping not, but expect that the ex-fiancé may not take the breakup seriously and will meet with a sperm donor to prep for when she gets over her silly ideas. The whole situation is messy, but OP is strong in handling the situation, and props for her on standing her ground and making the right decision. Fathers like OP's dad are useless, and I will never understand their reasoning and logic, but glad OP's mother is on her side. However, OP should be careful now, because with what the ex had pulled and all, ex could do something drastic. Her ex is all about control and thinking he knows better than her. No way is he going to just accept that it's over. He's going to try and strong-arm her into marriage whether she likes it or not. I'm betting it will take a restraining order to keep him away. And even then, it may not be enough. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother if he's going to be late, don't show up? Plus update. Original post. I, 31 female, and my husband, 29 male, got married a week ago. Yay! I spent 2 years planning my wedding, and everything was great. Except for my 36 male brother's tardiness with every event he came to. For context, my brother and I don't get along. Never have. I only invited him for my parents' sake. Also, I was adopted, so he's not biologically related to me. He is always late, and in the past we've had to tell him an event was 2 hours earlier than it really was, so he would be on time. He was late to my high school and college graduation, and missed my walk both times. When I was sending invitations, I put an extra note in his that read as follows. I know Mom, Dad, and I would love for you to attend, but if you're going to be late, don't bother showing up. Your girlfriend and her daughter are welcome to attend with or without you. He called me for the first time in years and cussed me out for the note. I held my ground and said I would still appreciate him coming to the wedding, but I will not allow to interrupt the ceremony by being late. I then called my parents and yelled at them as well. They said it was my wedding and they stood by my decision. He came to the wedding, but he walked in as I was walking down the aisle and walked past me to his seat. I was horrified and embarrassed and mad. I didn't know exactly what I was feeling in the moment, but it was a mixture of things. After the ceremony, my dad and my biological father, who I've become close with over the years since I met him, both spoke to my brother about how that was inappropriate and rude. My brother didn't care and asked where the bar was, but he was forced to leave. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Why do you continue to allow him to be a part of your life when he's clearly not interested? I get some people are always late to things in life, but showing up late to your wedding, let alone while you were walking down the aisle, was intentional. Sometimes family doesn't deserve to be family. It's one of the many reasons we don't get along. He blames me ruining a single kid fantasy because our parents chose to adopt me. My dad is an attorney and heard about my situation when I was 6 and adopted me. He said I ruined his life. Girl, kick him to the curb. He's not worth a life full of drama he will constantly cause. Do your parents know he has said stuff like this to you? No, I never told them. I don't want to feel like they have to choose between their kids. My brother to remind that he is their son. I'm not their daughter, just some kid they took pity on. But I never saw it that way. Not the a-hole. People who are always late are narcissistic a-holes. They do not care about your time. They only care about themselves. In my opinion, you never should have invited him, knowing what he is like. I only invited him because my parents said the photos with the whole family would be nice. And did you get the photos, or was he kicked out before they happened? He was kicked out before photos were taken, and the photographer stopped taking photos when he walked in, so the shots weren't ruined. He made the effort to be late and walk past the bride during the processional. It's perfectly reasonable to be angry. OP, I know it's too late for you, but I would advise anyone else in your position to have people who can bar entrance, at least until key moments, like the processional, are finished. Just to be clear, he was thrown out before he could raid the open bar? Lol. He was pulled away from the bar as he was ordering a drink. Now for the update. As a lot of people in the comments on the original post said, I told my parents everything. How my brother has told me that I ruined a single child fantasy, how my parents pitied me and that's why they adopted me, how I'll never be a member of the family, etc. I also told them that if I host any events at my home/ranch, and I will be hosting Christmas this year since I have the space for the whole family, biological and adopted, my brother will not be invited. I do not want him in my life anymore. The event at my wedding was the final straw. I will be civil if we see each other at family functions that I'm not hosting, but I will not be in contact with him anymore, unless there is an emergency with our parents. My parents support and understand my position. I told them that this is not me making them choose between us, and this is just me drawing a line in the sand and setting a boundary. I love my parents. They saved me from a horrible situation and gave me the best life I could have hoped for. If not for them, I wouldn't have my beautiful daughter, wouldn't have met my husband, or have my amazing ranch. My ranch hands, Lloyd in particular, said that if my brother ever attempted to come onto the ranch without my knowledge, they would boot him fast. Of course, his girlfriend and daughter are welcome anytime. I want to thank everyone for the support and kind comments and helping me see that he does not treat me like family. And I should stop trying to extend the olive branch since it keeps burning it. He literally walked past the bride on her way up the aisle? That's a special kind of self-centered and selfish. That was 100% intentional. He meant it as a straight-up middle finger. Definitely, especially as his family were seated on time. I assume they arrived together and then he ran an errand or some such nonsense. Being an adopted child can be challenging, especially if the parents already had one child. Sometimes we'll get along and some don't. With what has happened, it's clear that Opie and a brother have no chances to fix the relationship between each other. And at this point, going low contact is the better choice for Opie. It's good that Opie has made boundaries settled with, and the parents are respectful of Opie's decisions. Opie said she only invited a brother because of her parents. I kinda wish Opie had security, or the ranch hands acting as security, to not let latecomers in. Given what she already knew of her brother, she should have realized that telling him to be on time or don't come at all was begging him to pull his stunt like he did. She definitely should have had somebody at the door to keep him out. Honestly, I don't think her actions did or could have changed his behavior. He would have pulled this even if she hadn't said anything and just invited him, even if she'd just invited his wife and daughter, even if she'd told them all to stay home, and try to keep him from finding out where and when the wedding even was. Weird upside here is that now no one will question Opie's boundaries, because they've seen how far the brother will go. And people did deal with it swiftly in the moment. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my future sister-in-law pay for a replacement wedding dress after she modernized the first one? I, 24 female, am engaged to my fiancé Adrian, 25 male. I just managed to luck out and purchase a vintage wedding dress for about $1,200 from a lovely older woman who was selling it on eBay. I have a future sister-in-law, Selena, 22 female, who I let store the dress in her own home, while Adrian and I deep cleaned our closet so it didn't get damaged and wasn't hanging around for anyone besides immediate family or close friends to see. Yesterday, Adrian and I went to go pick up the dress since we were done cleaning out our closet. I was so excited to have it back and was planning on showing it to my mother. To my shock and horror, Selena had, in her own words, modernized the dress while it was at her place. She had gutted it. It was now essentially a mini dress with barely any resemblance to what it was previously. I freaked out at her, saying she had no right to do that to my wedding dress and that she had ruined it. Selena complained, saying that it was a surprise and supposed to be a pre-wedding/engagement gift. Selena tried to get Adrian to defend her, but he sided with me and said she completely and utterly overstepped, which surprised me because he's pretty protective of her. We left without the dress and Selena muttering about how she did me a favor. It was later that night when I got the idea to make her pay for another wedding dress. There was another dress that I had been eyeing that cost a bit less, but I chose the other dress over it. I talked about it with my fiancé and he agreed that Selena should pay for the dress since she ruined the first one. I sent the link to the dress to Selena over text and I asked her to pay for it. Selena texted back saying that she wouldn't pay for the replacement dress and that I should be fine with wearing the first one or paying for the replacement dress myself. We argued over text for a while before Selena just stopped responding and left me on red. This morning I checked my phone and saw a voicemail from my future mother-in-law saying that Selena shouldn't have to pay for the replacement and that alterations she made were a sweet gift. I asked Adrian about it and he said that I should stick to my plans of making Selena pay for it. But now that my future mother-in-law is involved, I'm reconsidering it. Am I the a-hole? What the heck? Who alters someone's wedding dress without being asked to? She should definitely pay for a new dress. If future mother-in-law thinks it was a good idea, she should buy you a new dress. Seamstresses and tailors who alter wedding dress will have multiple phone calls, measurements, sketches, just to make sure it's correct. And they know what they're doing. It's their job. You don't ever mess with a wedding dress. Small claims no wedding invite for the future sister-in-law. If mother-in-law doesn't like though, you could just not invite her to for less drama. I agree. This is his situation where your new family's showing their butts, and it's your job to show you aren't gonna wipe him. Take her to small claims and don't give in. Personally, this is one of those cases I would actually have turned on my TV to watch on Judge Judy. Could you imagine the snark? Why is he making you talk to her? Make him get the money from her. This isn't a battle you can win though. With future mother-in-law backing her up, she will never pay up, and you will be the ungrateful witch wanting money. Make your fiancé get your dress. My 31 female fiancé 36 male doesn't want to invite his sister-in-law to our wedding because she has feelings for him when it's more the other way around. Plus update. Original post. My fiancé, Will, has a younger brother, Charlie, 34 male, and he is married to Evie, 33 female. Evie is a beautiful woman both inside and out. She is one of the nicest people I've ever met and is an amazing and supportive friend. Perhaps the best friend I've ever had. Will, Charlie, and Evie went to school together. Charlie and Evie have been together for 20 years, and they married pretty much straight out of high school. During their time at school, Will and Evie went on one date before she started dating Charlie. Will had been hounding her for a date, and she eventually said yes to try and make Charlie jealous as she liked him, but didn't think he felt the same way. Yes, completely aware this is ridiculous, but Evie was 13 at a time. Evie told me about this date pretty early on. She had wanted me to know in case I thought she had feelings for Will. She made it very clear that she's never had romantic feelings for him, and that she just used him for that one day to make Charlie jealous. I do know that Will had feelings for Evie, and from what he said, that he stopped having them since we've been together. Will and I are currently in the process of planning our wedding for the next summer. We've been putting together a list of who we want to ask to be part of the wedding party and who we want to invite to the wedding. I want to have Evie as one of my bridesmaids because I know she will be supportive and reliable. Will frowned and told me that he wasn't planning on Evie being part of the wedding. I asked if he had a falling out with Charlie and wasn't inviting him either, as they're a package deal as a married couple. Plus, there is no way one would attend without the other. He replied that he hadn't fallen out with his brother, but he couldn't see himself getting married with Evie there, as according to him, she still has feelings for him, and he wouldn't want her to ruin our day. I know for a fact that she doesn't. I asked him if she had confessed feelings or something. He said no, but it's the way she is with him. He gave examples, like how she's always around our house. Evie and I run together 3 times a week, and as I live closer to her work, she comes to ours to change, instead of going home. How she'll make his favorite dessert when we celebrate Christmas at theirs. His birthday is Christmas Eve. How she does little thoughtful things like dropping off baked good for us, or how she takes an interest in things he is interested in. The 3 of them support the same football team. To me, none of this is Evie showing she has romantic feelings for him. She's just being a good friend. I told him this, but he is insistent on not inviting Evie to the wedding. I know that if Evie isn't invited, Charlie won't attend, and it will snowball further as the family are really close, but it will look like I'm the one causing this. I reached out to Evie after the conversation with Will, and I asked her to be honest with me if she had any sort of romantic feelings for Will. At first, Evie laughed at the idea of her having any sort of feelings for Will, then admitted that until I met Will, he had made her uncomfortable, but it had lessened since we got together 2 years ago. She explained that Will would make comments about how they were more suited than her and Charlie. He used to send her drunk messages about how they belonged together. She told me that Charlie knew about the messages, and they had pulled themselves away from Will during that period, but only allowed him back in when I started dating him. I asked her if he had sent her anything like that since we'd been together. Evie went quiet on the phone before saying that he had sent her a message at the weekend when Will, Charlie, and some of their friends had gone out drinking. She had canceled on running this week, but hadn't given me a reason, and it turns out that she is avoiding Will. Charlie also hasn't been talking to his brother since the night out because of the message. She sent me the message and it was very explicit. He told her that he wished he was the father of her child. Evie's pregnant with her 4th child, and not Charlie, and how he'd be a better dad than Charlie could ever be. I'm not sure what to do. I love Will, and he is convinced that Evie has feelings for him when she's made it clear that she does not. I thought Will had moved on, but is now sending Evie messages. Is there anything I can do, or is the relationship just doomed? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Why would you marry someone who is in love with someone else? You are the backup plan. If he ever sees that he has a chance with his sister-in-law, he will drop you faster than a hot-baked potato. Do you really want this man to be father to your children when he would rather Evie be the mother? Correction, is obsessed with sister-in-law. Obsession isn't love. 20 years is a crazy amount of time to harbor this, with it only seemingly going away temporarily once he met Opie. I've read a story recently where a girl who has been married close to a year is asking help with her husband who apparently likes to talk about his sister-in-law while he is intimate with his wife. Keep calling sister-in-law's name and describe how turned on by sister-in-law he is. The Opie in that story was saying it's been going on since the honeymoon, and my jaw dropped reading that. And I was like, you tolerated this for a year? I would have stopped at his first whisper and left the marriage completely no matter what. Seems that Opie was scared of being a divorced woman in her community and asking help in attracting her husband to her, and if maybe she needs to talk to sister-in-law and gets her to, and I kid you not, back off her husband. Shaking my head. Opie, I'm sorry, but do you really want to salvage such relationship? It's been 20 years, and he is still holding a torch and not letting go. Put more value on yourself than what this idiot is reducing you to, a backup plan. Your fiancé is obsessed over another woman to the point he outright told her he wished he was the father of her children. And you don't want to say anything because it may start a fight? Opie, you're his placeholder. If Evie did not have a husband or they divorced, he will go for her. This relationship is doomed. This is the kind of stuff that ends up on Dateline. Bingo! Either a husband offs their wife to be with desired partner, or wife off the desire of husband's affection to get rid of the competition, etc. Dateline, ID channel, true crime podcasts. Nothing but fodder for them. Yep, he's obsessed with her, and she's afraid of him. He's making up fantasies about how she secretly loves him, to the point he's actively trying to blow up their marriage and the entire family. Opie needs to run, and the sister-in-law needs to keep her head on a swivel during this breakup. You need to run. 1. Will is in love with Evie. 2. Will sexually harasses Evie now, and for the last 20 years. He isn't going to change. 3. Will is dangerously obsessed with Evie. 4. Evie should very seriously get a restraining order against him. 5. Check for cameras wherever Evie changes at your home. 6. I worry Will is using you as an excuse to get to see Evie. 7. He will always put Evie first. 8. He will never change. It's been going on for decades. When you break up with him, do it with someone else present and in a public setting. He is very unwell and dangerous. Very good point. Opie, you definitely need to run far away from this relationship, but you need to do it safely. Get your finances and property sorted out without letting Will know. Then GTFO. And I suggest Charlie and Evie completely cutting Will out of their lives. He is unhinged. Crap, I didn't even consider the possibility of hidden cameras. Opie definitely check for them, especially in bathrooms. Dude has major creep behavior already, and I wouldn't put it past him to do something like this. Edit/update. Not that it makes anything better. Will was 15 when they had that date. Evie is 6 months younger than her husband, and she's 34 next month. I've told Will that we need to talk when he comes back from taking his mom to an appointment this morning. It's nothing serious. Just taking her to get new glasses, but she needs the help as she's got mobility issues. I think he knows I want to talk about Evie, as he asked if it was about Evie and the wedding. I said yes, and he sighed before telling me we would discuss it when he comes back. I'm gonna put together a weekend pack so I can leave quickly if needed. I've texted Evie and Charlie to tell them I'm going to talk to Will about his behavior because it needs to change. And he needs to realize that nothing will ever happen with Evie. Charlie responded wishing me luck and has said their house is open to me if I need it. He also apologized for me having to go through this, as they shouldn't have stuck their heads in the sand about this, hoping it would go away. I know I should have brought this up after she told me, but I'm very non-confrontational and will try and avoid an argument if I can. Now for the full update. Will and I had a talk when he came back. I told him that I knew about the text he had sent Evie at the weekend. He denied it straight away, telling me she was a fantasist, but quickly changed his tune once I started reading him the text. He then started to apologize and claimed it was just a moment of weakness. After Charlie had been showing the group pictures from their family holiday last month, one of them had made a comment about Evie being out of Charlie's league, which reminded Will that he had lost his chance with Evie all those years ago. That's when he sent her the text. I asked him how he would feel if it had been Charlie harassing his partner, and he just lowered his head and said he would be upset, but that Charlie didn't deserve Evie. I told him that Evie wasn't an object to be given to whoever is deemed worthy of her, and that she chose Charlie, and that should have been enough for him. The fact there is someone out there who loves Charlie for who he is and makes his brother happy should be enough. Will told me that he was jealous of Charlie, as he has everything he wanted, and it wasn't fair because he's the eldest. Charlie did better than Will in school. He was better at sports. Charlie's more successful as he was able to do what he wanted. Will feels he had to do what his parents expected, while Charlie could go to uni for whatever he wanted. Seeing Evie with Charlie is a reminder that Charlie has everything he wants. I asked Will if Evie was single and interested in him, would he leave me? Will refused to answer the question, but it was all I needed to hear. I told Will that I was going to stay elsewhere for a couple of days while I figure out where I will go, because we are over. I don't want to stay living with someone who doesn't care about me. When I went to go and get the bag I packed, Will asked me if he could have the ring back as it is a family heirloom. It belonged to his gran. It was intended for whoever got married first. But when Charlie asked for it, Will apparently threw a massive tantrum over it, saying that it should be his as he is the eldest. So their mom said Charlie couldn't have it. I told him no, that it was going to the person who it was meant to go to, Evie. I'm now at Charlie and Evie's for a couple days, while I figure out getting a new place to stay, or if I will move closer to my family. I work for myself so that makes things easier. Charlie and Evie have decided they will be going low contact with Will. They'd go no contact, but it will cause drama with the family and neither want that, especially Evie. Will called Charlie asking if I was with them, but Charlie told Will that he had no idea where I am. Charlie then proceeded to tell Will that they are going low contact with him because of the way Will has been towards Evie and that he is now doing what he should have done years ago and protect Evie. Evie has apologized several times as she feels she's the reason my relationship has ended. But I have reassured her that the only person at fault here is Will, and I do not blame her for anything. If anything, she is a victim in all of this too. I've given her the ring, but she has said that I should give it back to mother-in-law as she doesn't want it. I wish I had seen Will's behavior before it got this far, but I was blinded by love. Looking back, I can see there were red flags that I just decided to ignore. Last story. My 30 female fiancé 40 male is having an affair with a dead woman. Here's my dilemma. Do I postpone my wedding and give us a shot to work this out? Or do I run for the hills? I'm wondering if I'm completely missing his perspective in all of this. My fiancé 40 male and I 30 female have been together for 9-ish years. A year or two through our relationship, we spent some time apart as I felt he had an inappropriate relationship with a coworker, both realtors. We ended up getting back together, but he continued to sleep with her during the first few months of us trying to work things out. We did work things out. The infidelity isn't as big of an issue for me as it is for other people. I quickly felt trust with him again, and things were great. The issue of the affair has rarely come up since we talked through our resolution years ago. 6-ish years later, we got engaged. Almost a year after that, his mistress died. Excuse my cold tone with this, but to me, she is not a good person, and I will never see her in that light. I found out she had a fetish for taken men, and she played a big role in ending 4 other marriages. My fiancé went to the funeral and spoke, at her parents' request, despite my expressing how hurtful and disrespectful that was in my eyes. In the months following her death, he has participated in fundraising held in honor of this woman. I have continued to express how hurtful and disrespectful I find this involvement in all of this. I'm capable of, and have moved on, and forgave him for the original affair. But when he keeps doing things that bring it to the forefront of our relationship, I can't help but to feel hurt by it. There is a messy history after all. I feel like I have sacrificed so much, sat back and been the one to bend and compromise on everything surrounding her in these situations, and I can't see anything that is compromised on when it comes to it. All I see is an inappropriate and disrespectful emotional connection to his dead mistress. There was a small fundraising dinner in her honor the other night, and this is where things really hit the fan. I again expressed my feelings on the situation, especially since he didn't tell me until an hour before he was going to leave to attend. He said I need to get over the affair and stop holding it over his head, and I need to figure my stuff out. He wishes I could see his perspective, because I wouldn't be upset if I stepped back and saw his side of things. Yet, he couldn't articulate his perspective. He also said he was sick of my meritless threats, after I said if he is going to continue to have an inappropriate emotional connection with his dead mistress and bring it to the forefront of our lives together, that I couldn't live the rest of my life like that. He said he has the right to honor a good friend, and that she always had his back even after he chose me. This has really caught me off guard the past year. I thought there was no connection to her anymore. I also thought he had a partner that would care enough about my feelings to be willing to change some of their actions. I know I would feel awful if he came to me and said that something I was doing was hurtful to him and he found it disrespectful, but I'm getting none of that from him. Now for the advice. Wow, maybe you should have been more hurt by the affair. Your fiancé sucks. He didn't respect you when he cheated, and he doesn't now. He didn't tell you until an hour before he was going to a fundraising dinner for her, and she's a serial home wrecker? That's the woman your fiancé loves. Even when she's dead, she's wrecking your home. Your fiancé sucks. You deserve better. That's the woman your fiancé loves. It's so crummy to hear, but I immediately don't disagree with that statement. Thank you. He also said he was sick of my meritless threats, after I said if he is going to continue to have an inappropriate emotional connection with his dead mistress and bring it to the forefront of our lives together, that I couldn't live the rest of my life like that. You heard the man. Stop bluffing and divorce him. This is some of the most disrespectful crap I've ever heard in my life, and you have repeatedly communicated that to him very clearly. In response, he told you he doesn't care and that he doesn't think you have the backbone to leave him. Prove him wrong. Fool isn't even her husband, just her fiancé. The best time to leave him was when Opie learned about his affair. The second best time is today. He's showing through his words and actions that he doesn't respect her. Just rip the band-aid off and move on. Better now than in 10 years when they might have kids and a more solidly entwined life. That would be much more difficult to disentangle. Which affair? The one 7 to 8 years ago? Because Opie said that infidelity isn't as big of an issue for her. So, yeah, she has tolerated intolerable for too long, and I doubt she'll put her foot down. But she should have done that years ago and found someone that actually valued her. Don't marry him. Just break up. He's selfish. He wants you to see his perspective, but wants you to get over what is a major situation in your life. Nothing good for you in the future with him. He might even cheat again when or if he ever gets over his mistress. Prioritize yourself. He's not. Getting lots of "and I'd do it all again" vibes. He didn't choose Opie while they were together, didn't choose her while sleeping with the affair partner during their reconciliation, and certainly isn't choosing her now, while invalidating her feelings and the obvious damn effort she put in to keep their relationship together. This 40-year-old teenager can buzz right off.